What is up, Gen Nation? Welcome to the Theater Room, episode 26. And today I have a very special guest with me, my buddy Shaun. Shaun, say what's going on.
Hey, how's it going?
So, Shaun has been here before. It's been a little while. I think the last time you jumped on, we talked about Zack Snyder's Justice League, if I remember correctly, and amongst some other things. I have a few topics that I did send you that I want to talk about today. We're going to go into the Ultimate Marvel Movie Tournament, which, for anyone who hasn't joined in yet, on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, Generational Gaming and Entertainment Network, we're currently in the throes of a heated debate on what the ultimate Marvel movie is. Not just the MCU, any Marvel movie that's ever come out, including the Fox X-Men movies, the Sonyverse or Sony movies, and then some of like the legacy movies, like the original like Punisher and Howard the Duck and some other kind of obscure ones. So if you want to be in that conversation, join any of those groups. And today, Shaun, I want to talk about the results from last week's matchups, and you'll get one of the early votes on the next matchups coming up. I just dropped my ring. Some of the other things I want to talk about is the Marvel's What If. Are you caught up on What If?
Yeah,
All
I
right.
watched all of them. I actually finished them this weekend,
I feel
Sunday.
like the last episode was pretty major. The last few episodes have been pretty good, but I have a couple questions as to what might be coming up in the future for the show, and then also
Oh, yeah.
for new seasons. And then I also want to talk about. Hold on, let me look at my topics list here. Star Wars Visions. Did you watch that?
I watched the first four.
Okay. Well, so the good thing about Star Wars Visions is there's not some major storyline. We can kind of talk about the whole thing, and it's just not going to spoil anything for you. I won't tell
Mhm.
you any spoilers for the last bunch of episodes, but I have some opinions that might not really be considered popular opinions these days. And then I also, last thing I want to talk about today is the end credit scene. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't watched it yet, for Venom Let There Be Carnage. Have you seen the movie yet?
Haven't seen the movie,
Okay.
but I did read about the end credit scene, so I know what happens.
Yeah, I couldn't help myself. I kept reading that everyone was going berserk on this end credit scene, so I went ahead on TikTok. It's all over the place. I watched it a bunch of times. It really doesn't ruin the movie at all, but it's a pretty major scene, so we're gonna get into that too. So I'd say first, before we get into the Ultimate Marvel tournament, let's kind of jump right into the Venom scene. So for
Yeah,
anyone who hasn't seen it yet, spoiler alert, I'm going to give you 1 minute of silence while I send, the stream link out to a few people, and then we're going to talk about it. So if you want to jump out, then leave now. I feel like at this point, though, anyone who is into any of this kind of stuff would have probably seen the scene. I don't think they would have waited.
yeah. If you haven't seen it, at least read about it. I didn't see it, but I did read about it. I don't know if I can find a link for it on YouTube or something like that. If you did, I'll check out your link. But yeah, I read, so I got a pretty detailed description of what happened.
Like I said, on TikTok, tons of people are sharing the scene, so it's super easy to find. Hold on, let me just. I'm gonna send this link out to a few people, see if I can get anybody to jump into the chat, and join us, and then we'll go from there. Let's see if Brian jumps in. Who else do we got? All right, one more person. All right, I'm telling you right now, it's your last chance. If you haven't seen the Venom end credit scene and don't want to be spoiled, then leave now. Otherwise, I'm about to describe it in three, two, and one. So the scene was basically Venom or Eddie Brock is laying in bed in like a hotel room. He's talking to Venom, and Venom makes a comment about how the whole Venom symbiote is like a hive mind, and there's basically things that he's seen that Eddie couldn't even comprehend. And Eddie kind of makes a comment like almost like not taking him seriously. So Venom says, "Here, I'll give you a small little taste." And Eddie starts to feel something, and then all of a sudden like the TV starts getting all distorted, the walls start to shake, flashing lights on the outside, the entire room transforms into a much more updated hotel room. Eddie's like, what the hell did you do? And Venom's like, that wasn't me. And then all of a sudden the TV turns on, and it's J. Jonah Jameson. It's basically playing the scene, the end credit scene at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, where Tom Holland's Peter Parker is revealed to be Spider-Man, and Venom says they see this guy and licks the screen, and then that's how the scene ends. So my first question: did Venom come into the MCU, or is Tom Holland, did he get transferred to Venom's or a different universe?
No, I think simply, well, I mean, it could change once we see No Way Home, but I think Venom just got transferred into the MCU, almost like Fox just sent him over to the MCU.
I think so too, and I think really the only reason why I like that's kind of set is because the room changes. There's the all the lights and stuff like that happen.
Yeah.
It's like if it wasn't Venom coming to the MCU, then why would all that shit happen around him? You know, I do think though the No Way Home name for Spider-Man 3 has to have significance for Peter Parker's character. I don't
Yeah.
know that he's gonna stay in the MCU. I really feel like by the end of his movie, he's no longer gonna be a part of the sacred timeline, and instead he's gonna be in a separate universe, which is essentially the Sony Spider-Verse, and he's just gonna stay there for a while. And he'll bounce back and forth, I think, for different Avengers movies or something like that.
I'm sure
Now,
when they come out with a big penultimate Avengers type movie again, like the first Avengers, after maybe a bunch of smaller movies like Shang-Chi, Eternals, and all that, maybe you bring Spider-Man back for like one of the big ensemble movies.
that's what I'm thinking. But let me ask you this question now: Do you think Venom is going to be in No Way Home?
Um, I mean, maybe as an end credit scene. I'm betting more of an end credits thing where at the end of No Way Home, you could still have another thing where Jameson finds out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man again. So at the end of that movie, we're back at the same point we were at the end of Far From Home,
You could.
and
I
then
I
that's
kind of
like
agree with that.
when Venom shows up.
I feel like I don't know. So a lot of people are saying after seeing this end credit scene, a lot of people online are saying that they think Venom is going to be the sixth villain. So we
Yes,
have five, and the Sinister Six is pretty much confirmed for the movie. So they think it's going to be Venom. My problem is, and this is kind of leads into my overall problem with Venom as a character right now, is Venom's not really supposed to be a hero. I mean, a bad guy
in the
in the
Venom
current
movie.
like movies. He's a hero. So how can he be a part of the Sinister Six? If anything, I think he's going to show up to help Tom Holland defeat
Could
all
be.
these villains, and that could end up being, instead of having Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield show up and help Peter Parker, it could be Venom comes to help Peter Parker, or Eddie comes to help Peter
Yeah.
Parker.
Although I think recently I saw that Corridor Crew had debunked the debunking of Andrew Garfield not being in Spider-Man.
So I
Uh,
didn't watch that video. I
well,
saw they posted it. Did
yeah.
you watch that video?
No, I didn't. I didn't watch it. I saw it as posted, and I read an article about them debunking it.
Right. So they say that really is Andrew Garfield in costume on set. Which, listen, I want that to happen.
I
100%.
mean,
I want that to
they
happen.
can both be in it. They can both be in it, and Venom can be. It can be all three.
Why not? Right? It would just be that much more badass, honestly, if they're all in it.
I would say.
But, and this is unpopular opinion number one for tonight, I
Yeah.
don't like Venom. Now, let me clarify. I love Venom in the comic books. I love Venom in the animated series. And I kind of liked Venom in Spider-Man 3. Topher Grace wasn't a good choice, but the storyline they used and everything like that, I liked what they were trying to do in Spider-Man 3. This
Yeah.
Venom, I don't like. I think he's too quippy. He's not violent enough. Like, I don't hate Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock, but it's
Here-
not my Venom. Hashtag not my Venom. It's not the guy I want.
But here's the thing I think Sony was trying to do with Venom. I don't think they knew that they were. I think when they made their first Venom movie, they didn't know that they were going to be able to bring him into the Spider-Man universe. So they wanted to make
That's
a
true.
universe or a set of movies that are only about Venom and not even really, thinking about Spider-Man at all.
Yeah,
So they
that's
built him
true.
up to be this anti-hero hero type of vigilante type thing. And now they're trying to shoehorn him into the MCU, and the best way to do it is keep him as a good guy
And
or
that's the problem.
vigilante.
That's the problem. You're trying to force him now into this role. I never once felt that Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock and Venom needed to or could really interact with Tom Holland's Peter Parker in a meaningful way. Now, I have full faith in Marvel. If they're allowing this to happen, if they're bringing them to No Way Home, I assume it's going to be fantastic. But it
I
just,
think Marvel and Feige, I think they'll find a way, and they'll do it. They'll do it right.
yeah, I just feel like based off of like the history of Venom, and this isn't the Venom that I like. I want more. I want the villain, and I want him to. I want to see. What pisses me off is that my favorite storyline is the whole, Maximum Carnage, the game. It's when Venom and Spider-Man have
Yeah,
this history, and they're bad guys and good guys and whatever. But then Venom's kind of like, yo, I need to help you because Carnage is way worse than me, and then that kind of starts the anti-hero kind of process for Venom as a hero. We're
yeah,
we're skipping over all that. And Carnage is in this movie, and we're still not going to see Spider-Man and Venom team up to fight him. So it's a little frustrating to me that
yeah.
we're like right on the cusp of getting the storyline I want, and it's just never going to
That's
happen.
never, that's probably never going to happen unless Carnage doesn't die at the end of this movie. Which,
Yeah,
like I said, I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But if he doesn't die, then you could still have it. But
I
I don't think that's
guess.
going to happen. I think they're kind of past that
I think
if
they're past
Carnage
it
is
too.
the main bad guy in this movie.
I think they're past it too, but I will say that with Venom coming to the MCU, which is I think we both agree is pretty much what we see happen in the end credit scene. That means that Carnage, even if he dies in the Venom movie, another version of Carnage could show up down the line against Tom
In the
Holland.
comics, there's the whole Carnage family. You got like
Hmm.
yellow and green Carnages, basically. So they could do that for the next movie. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
I think that would be kind of stale if you already did Carnage. Why would you do
Why would you do it
now
again?
Family of Carnage versus Spider-Man and Venom? Let's just say it'd be too much.
Yeah, that's true. But
Same
then
thing.
again, if I remember correctly, if I read correctly, I should say, I'm pretty sure that Carnage in the Let There Be Carnage movie is a part of the Venom symbiote. At least at the trailer, that's what the trailer made it seem like.
Right.
So they already are kind of establishing the symbiote family or
Okay.
symbiote family, however you pronounce it.
Hmm.
I think the scene is cool and it's a good setup. I kind of think my guess is that Venom's not going to be in Spider-Man No Way Home, and he'll be included in like an end credit scene and kind of hint towards a future Spider-Man movie or future
That's what I
appearance.
think they'll do too, because I think No Way Home, if they throw Venom in there, they're going to have a similar problem to the original third Spider-Man
Yes,
movie.
I agree.
We have too many people, too many superheroes slash supervillains,
Right.
and then you end up with a movie that's a little too much that you can't fill into that
I agree
time.
100%. I agree
But it's like
100%.
it's like the Justice League movie. When the Snyder Cut came out, it was great, but
Right.
it's 6 hours
That's what I'm
or
saying.
whatever.
It
Oh,
was
it's like,
good because they actually
wow,
had time to slowly introduce the heroes
but
and
you
let
can't
them
do that.
interact.
You can't do that. I mean, that's never going to happen again. Certainly not an MCU movie. So they're not going to make a 6 hour Spider-Man movie. It's going to be 2.5 hours max or whatever the max running time they've done for a Marvel movie. It's
Well,
only going to
Marvel
get.
movies, I think
So
they could
far,
probably stretch it to 2.5 hours at least.
they've
Um,
gone about close to that, right? Endgame was like
well,
2 hours and
Endgame was
10 minutes.
over 3 hours.
Was it for three
Yeah,
hours?
and Endgame was like I want to say it wasn't. I don't know if it was four, but it was like 3.5 hours probably.
Okay, I
Infinity
thought it
War was
was
like two and a half
two and a
hours.
half.
Yeah, the majority of
Well,
them were about 2 hours.
yeah. Either way, they could do it again, I guess.
They could. I mean, they could, and they probably should, to be honest, with so many characters. Even with Andrew Garfield, and Tobey
Yeah.
Maguire showing up, if they show up and it's literally just like a 10-minute cameo at the end of the movie, people are gonna riot. You got to give them at least a little bit of time, and the
I
only way to give
I
them
think they'll
time,
be.
right?
I'm hoping, and I think, but I'm hoping that they're going to be in the movie for a majority of the movie, and the
I
movie's going to be three Spider-Man versus maybe
fingers,
six, or
right?
five villains.
Fingers crossed. I think a lot of what we saw in the trailer is footage of Toby and Andrew, and things are just kind of just switched up to kind of keep it a secret.
Oh, just camera angles, the
Hmm.
right camera angles, so you don't see them.
Right.
I
Right.
heard the next trailer is going to have Tobey Maguire and Garfield. I mean, that's what people are saying.
It really
Hopefully
should.
that is the
If
case.
it see, my thing is, and this is kind of like a careful game that Marvel has to play. If they continue to go this route of denying that they're in the movie, and even Charlie Cox with Daredevil, if they continue to deny it as adamantly as they are, and then the movie comes out and they're in it anyway, you're falling into the Star Trek Into Darkness territory where everyone knew, but J.J. Abrams was kind of like thinks he's smarter than everybody else, and it's like, no, 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 I promise you, it's not the case. And then he just looked
Right.
dumb when we were right the whole time.
Yeah, you
So
just straight line.
it would be good. It would be smarter for Marvel to just flat out reveal that they're in it in the next trailer and
I think,
go, we're giving you guys what you want, like they're in the movie, and then
yeah,
move on.
I think they should do that and keep keep some other things secret. Maybe the sixth villain, if there is a sixth villain, don't mention anything about it, and
Right.
maybe not answer people's questions
Right.
or theories by saying, "Oh no, it's this person's not in it. No, there's no sixth villain or anything like that." Say nothing.
I think that's a good way, especially because the new question now is Venom in No Way Home, and so the two big questions or three big questions I should say are Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Charlie Cox in No Way Home? Is Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock slash Venom in No Way Home? Who is the sixth villain, if there is any, for the Sinister Six in No Way Home? The best way to avoid revealing the last villain and if Eddie Brock's in it is to just show us Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. Everyone will
Yeah,
forget about everything else if you just show us that. That will be the focus of the trailer.
they'd be so excited, right?
Right. And listen, we don't have much time. It's already October, so it's not like they have to play this game that much longer. Distract us for a month, and we're in December when we're ready to
Yeah,
go.
I think by the end of October, maybe beginning November, they'll give us that second trailer, and we'll know.
I wonder if they'll give it to us. Maybe they'll give it to us right around Eternals time. So Eternals is the first week of
Okay,
November, November 4th or
November.
5th.
So maybe.
So that's only a couple weeks
I wonder
out.
if Eternal will have an end credit scene that talks about what's going on with Spider-Man 2.
I
You
think
can
it's
also have
going
that
to.
happen.
I think it's going to. If you think about it, the first phase one of the MCU, every end credit scene essentially gave you
Led
a
to the next.
hint or led into the very next movie that was being released.
Yeah,
That's how they all were, and I feel like based off of Shang-Chi's ending, it looks like Shang-Chi's ending end credit scene leads directly into the Eternals. So I feel like Eternals is going to lead directly into Spider-Man No Way Home, and then
yeah,
that will go straight into Doctor Strange.
yeah.
Doctor Strange 2. So, all right, those are our thoughts on the Venom end credit scene. I apologize if I spoiled it for you, but I did warn you. I gave you plenty of time. And to be perfectly honest, you should just watch the end credit scene anyway. It does not ruin the movie. So let's move on to another topic here. Hold on. Let me get my little list out here. Before we get into the Ultimate Marvel tournament, let's talk Star Wars Visions a little bit. I'm gonna pivot. I'm gonna pivot a little bit, and then we're gonna come back to Marvel, because Marvel seems to dominate the show these days. Star Wars Visions. So you only watched the first 4 episodes, right? What do you think so
Yeah.
far?
Pretty cool series. I'm a big anime buff,
Mm-hmm.
so I like the animation style they were going for. So the 4 episodes, I have to look at what directors did each, but I have a feeling I kind of know. But the direction and the art style for at least the four that I saw were great. I liked all of them. The stories, I didn't care for the band story with Jabba's cousin or whatever or nephew, little
So what's
guy.
funny is I actually like that's one of my favorite ones out of all the episodes.
It was okay. I just felt like it was kind of pointless. It
See,
didn't really
so
have any
I can
action in
explain
it. I'm
why.
more of an action guy, I guess.
Well, all right. You're right. The action
The
is kind
action was
of
a little weak on that.
yeah, but I can explain the reason why I like it. And I'll tell you exactly why I liked it. The reason why I enjoyed it is
Yeah,
because it was different. I'm a big not proponent, but I'm a big like fan or of the idea of showing us new and different Star Wars things
sure.
or things happening in the Star Wars universe. It doesn't always have to be about the Jedi and about the Sith. It doesn't always have to include lightsabers or different variations of it. I want to see more than that.
Right.
The galaxy is huge. Why do we always watch the same kind of small group of people doing battle? So the idea of this band just trying to make it to me was actually a cool idea. I didn't necessarily like that it tied into Jabba the Hutt because
Right.
I feel like of all Star Wars stories, there's this need to get it all to tie into some of the original characters or locations,
Kind of something. Yeah.
and that kind of irritates me a little bit. It's always kind of irritated me.
Yeah. Well, the first and third didn't tie into anything,
Well,
so
that's what I was gonna say. So there's a bunch of episodes that just stay away from Sith Empire, all that stuff, and are just standalone stories that take place in the universe where Jedi and Sith exist, where Force users exist. Those
yeah.
were my favorite stories. And
I
you
think
mentioned the first episode. To me, that was the best episode of the entire series.
that's my favorite so
Yeah.
far. But it feels like a kind of a Kurosawa type of
Oh, I love that.
anime look.
I love
Has
that.
a really
Just the idea of him like unsheathing a lightsaber, even though it makes no sense logically, but like the way he just kind of handled it, like it was a samurai sword, was just phenomenal. I thought.
love that the bad guy girl who her lightsaber spinny thing was supposed to be like an umbrella, which you see in a lot of samurai flicks.
Hmm.
you have the girl character has an umbrella as like a sheath for their sword, as
Yeah.
it were. And sometimes the umbrella has, is a weapon in and of itself, which that was. I thought that was pretty
Yeah,
cool.
no, I really I
Nice.
enjoyed the first episode a lot. I love the whole the visual style of it. I love the kind of showdown between the two guys and or the the hero and the villain. And I really like how the hero, it was ambiguous of whether or not he really was a hero. He saved that little town, but for all we know, he was just annoyed that they shot his droid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we don't know his motivations. I love the mystery, and then he just rides off into the sunset and it's over, and you just
Well,
kind of move
actually,
on.
he's basically a Ronin, which
Right.
is, an ex-samurai. So I guess he's supposed to be an ex-Sith.
You assume so. I love but my thing is like the little details, like him lifting up his jacket or whatever, and he's got the string of kyber crystals.
Yeah.
So as far as he's been killing force users and taking their crystals. Like it's just I love that they left it open. They didn't explain everything. Like that to me was a phenomenal story. And there's actually you don't see it right here, but I have an image up of my second favorite episode, which takes place towards the later in the season.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was the last episode or not, but got a similar kind of feel to it. There's a lot of mystery behind the characters and some good action, some good fighting, and then it just kind of ends. They leave things open, and you just kind of it's an interpretation. I hope they
Right.
do more of this. I was when they announced originally that they were doing this, and it was kind of like the Animatrix, where it's just
Yeah,
a bunch of
basically
different
an anime.
stories. I liked it. And then I like I actually enjoyed the the rock band episode with Boba Fett, head banging a little bit to some tunes. That was just a cool scene. I mean, it was just a cool episode. I thought it was different, but a lot of
Yeah,
it was very basic Star Wars stories that we've seen before. That
I'd say it was very different, but at the same time, not as exciting as the rest, as well, at least the other three that I saw. So I think
right.
the first, third, and fourth were really, exciting visual, adventures.
I will say that I feel like Marvel is outdoing Star Wars in the show department. Mandalorian is great, and I
Yeah,
mean, it's hard to say that. It's hard to say that for sure, but I feel like it feels like Marvel is just a little more consistent. We had Star Wars Rebels, which was awesome.
yeah.
We had the last season of Clone Wars, so I wouldn't consider that a new property. It was just a continuation.
Mm.
And then we got Star Wars Visions, and I know we have the Book of Boba Fett and a lot of other things to look forward to, but
Yep.
I kind of want more. I feel like we need more and quicker releases a little bit. They
I think
just released a
in
Star Wars
general,
Halloween
they,
thing, but
I know you're saying you're comparing Star Wars to Marvel, but if you look at it, it's all under the umbrella of Disney, and Disney's doing a great job with both franchises. So
that's
I
true.
have no complaints.
I
Either,
can't.
either way.
I'm nitpicking, right? Because I'm spoiled because we have so much good stuff coming out, good content in those particular categories.
We have a
So
lot of great content.
so I'm allowed to nitpick. You know,
The best time to be, watching streaming.
yeah, hell yeah. And then, so speaking of, now let's go back. Let's pivot back to Marvel, actually. So Star
Yeah,
Wars Visions, just for anyone who's jumping in, it's definitely worth watching, but don't expect some groundbreaking thing. That's my opinion, my
that's it.
review, I guess. But going back to Marvel now, this is the big dog right now, the Marvel's What If show. So you're fully caught up, right?
Yeah.
So first things first, out of all the episodes that have come out, what would you say is your favorite episode?
Oh, it's hard to say a favorite. I mean, I would say the last episode, but that kind of is almost a given. So if I were to take that one out, maybe the zombies episode, thought that was really good.
I thought the zombies episode was excellent.
And I read the
Um,
comics, so it doesn't follow the comics per se, but the zombies episode was really good.
it was really awesome. I thought. I would say my favorite episode so far is what if Doctor Strange lost his hands instead of his heart? I'm sorry, lost his
Yeah,
heart instead of his hands.
yeah, hard thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was good.
and my
And
problem
that
with the
leads
show
into
at
the last
first,
episode.
what is that?
And that also it links to the last episode as well.
Well,
So
so you knew from the beginning. I kept feeling that the way the shows were ending, Disney or Marvel was leaving it open for a second season. I wasn't
yeah,
really expecting it to kind of come back into play before the season ended. So I do
yeah,
like that the episodes, a lot of the characters that are still alive and whatever, it seems like they're going to come back next episode.
yeah,
But for me, I feel like the with the style of retelling some of the MCU stories, was the best one was the Doctor Strange one. It really just kind of added enough of a little twist and then really carried it far. I mean, to see
yeah.
Doctor Strange, see how powerful he can be, where he can literally just destroy an entire universe on his own, an entire timeline or dimension or whatever he did. Like, that was pretty cool. Everything else was good, and we see a lot of differences, but that to me was like, damn, that's awesome. Otherwise, I do like the zombie one, the zombie episode, and I do think the last probably 2 episodes have really picked up the intensity of the show. The Thor episode, at first, I was like, this is funny, but, you know, what's the point? And then all of a sudden, Ultron shows up with all the Infinity Stones, and I was like, oh, damn.
That
You
was,
know?
that was a cool way to end, because the last 3 episodes, right? Was the third episode before the last the zombie one, or the
No, it was the Bro Thor episode where he parties on Earth and almost destroys it.
yeah.
At the end of that was when Ultron shows up, and then
That was,
Ultron and the Watcher is the last episode, and the one
right, so those were the last 2.
right, that's right, and the one before that was the
Right.
zombie episode. Yeah,
Yeah, so if you take the zombie one out, I think the one before the zombie was the Doctor Strange. Take the Doctor Strange, the Frat Boy, Thor, and the Ultron episode. Those 3 episodes kind of work together as one
yeah,
long form
yeah,
story.
which was
And I
awesome.
feel like with the ending, well, I don't know if you want to go right into the ending right now.
No, yes, at this point, if you haven't watched it, screw yourself. You should have watched it already.
So with the ending of the last episode, I feel like they're tying the entire What If series into the MCU multiverse now
Oh yeah,
as being
100%.
actual pieces of the MCU multiverse.
So that was gonna be my follow up question. So you believe that the events of what we're seeing on the What If show are connected to what we see live action in the
Yeah,
theaters?
they're all actually happening. Those are actual different timelines, different universes
Do
that
you
all exist
think there's a
based on
chance?
what happened at the end of Loki, basically.
I don't disagree with that. It makes me excited because I feel like there's a chance that some of the characters that we meet in the What If show are going to make a live action appearance.
Yeah, I'm almost I feel almost certain that evil, not evil, but that deluded Doctor Strange who
Hmm.
lost his heart. I think he might be in the new Doctor Strange movie.
I
He
kind
might
of
make an appearance, or
I have a feeling
at
he's gonna
least
be too.
at least say something. Or the Watcher might say something about
Well,
him.
here's a theory. Here's a fun little theory to think about. What if that Doctor Strange is the one that's trying to help Peter Parker in No Way
Could be,
Home?
could
I
be.
I feel like because I can't shake that Doctor Strange in the trailer for No Way Home does not feel like the Doctor Strange we've been kind of seeing in all of the MCU. So I feel like what if the Doctor Strange we saw in the trailer try and do the spell for Peter is not the Doctor Strange that we know, but is the Dark Doctor Strange or the Strange Supreme, whatever they call him in that one, in the What If
Yeah.
show.
So
What if it's him trying to almost like practice some of this dark magic to try and like rebuild his abilities to try, and undo things.
could be. There are scenes in the trailer for Spider-Man No Way. Yeah, No Way Home that you see Doctor Strange doing a couple of things that seem like he was almost attacking Peter.
Right, like yeah, with the
I
trains
think
and
it was a scene where he's on a train, right?
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
yeah,
So that could be that other Doctor Strange, or it
it
could
could be.
be that this Doctor Strange you're seeing in this movie is an alternate universe Doctor Strange, and not really the one that we know from the MCU.
It almost feels like between the What If show, between Loki, the What If show, and Spider-Man No Way Home, so much stuff is going to happen in the multiverse, and then that's going to lead into Doctor Strange's multiverse of madness, where he's got to, go in. Maybe he needs to recruit Wanda because she's a Nexus of being to kind of help him kind of put things right where they're supposed to
I'm
be.
hoping, or at least feeling that in a Doctor Strange multiverse of madness movie that he's going to end up kind of closing all these timelines.
Okay.
So you take the What If shows, the all the shows Loki and WandaVision, maybe combining it all together and making those all exist and making it all part of like one timeline and one universe.
So it's almost like he's taking over the Kang role, I guess, or the He Who Remains role. I feel like
Well, you know what?
I think we're gonna see the
If
Watcher in Doctor Strange too. I think he's gonna make an appearance in live action in that movie.
Doctor's gonna make an appearance,
Yeah,
maybe Kang.
I
Unless
hope
Kang
Kang
is the main
does.
actor in that one.
I hope Kang does. One thing I don't want. So the one thing that I didn't like, not that I didn't like, but that Marvel could have probably done better with Thanos is have him show up a little more often, and not for big roles, but just appear more often. We saw him in Guardians of the Galaxy at the very end of Avengers 1. We saw him in Guardians at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 1, or during Guardians of the Galaxy, I should say. We saw him again in an end credit scene for Avengers Age of Ultron, and then we don't see him again until Avengers Infinity War. So there's a lot of time that passed. I wouldn't mind if they had Kang show up, or different variants of Kang in multiple movies. We know he's going to be in Ant-Man and the Wasp, but I really don't think that's going to be the end of Kang. That'll just be the end of one particular variant of Kang.
Sure.
So I kind of want him to pop up more and more and just kind of be almost like be this constant threat that just keeps appearing, and they keep thinking they ended it, but there's more that show up. It kind of fits his character in the comic books that they do that.
One of the end credit scenes for the next several movies, let's say starting with Eternals and going into Far From No Way Home and Doctor Strange, all have Kang in it. That would be some way to kind of develop his, evil character, if you will. Like it'll be Kang the Conqueror Kang, not just a guy he saw in Loki.
Right, and it'll kind of really establish him more as a bigger threat than Thanos. Because Thanos didn't show up a lot. He didn't. He really didn't. I don't care what anyone says. He didn't. And speaking of that, speaking of Thanos in particular, I do think one thing that Marvel needs to be careful of is ruining Thanos's intimidation factor with the shows. So like twice now, we saw Thanos in the episode where Star-Lord is T'Challa. We saw it only took a few words, and then Thanos not only became a good guy essentially, but was by himself, couldn't hold his own in the fight against some of his own lieutenants from Infinity War. Whereas the Thanos we knew up until that point was just a powerhouse who could go toe-to-toe with the Hulk. So, that's already a step kind of knocking him down a notch. And then we see him show up with 5 Infinity Stones in the last episode, and Ultron just kills him in 2 seconds. And it's like, well...
Half.
What'd you say?
He split him in half, right?
Yeah, which was, listen, it was a cool scene to see him get killed like that, but I feel like he should have at least put up a fight. He had 5 Infinity Stones. And I get that Vision has an Infinity Stone, but 5-1, you would still think that Thanos would put up some sort of fight.
Yeah, Thanos should have had a chance.
I mean, he got bitch slapped real quick.
I don't think that was a point. I don't think they were trying to show that Thanos is not a threat. I think they were just trying to show that Ultron with 5 Infinity Stones is much, much worse than Thanos.
Yeah, but he beat him with 1 Infinity Stone. I felt like it could have been... I don't know. I felt like they should have at least had a quick fight, maybe where Thanos thinks he's gonna win because he has so many 5-1 Infinity Stones. But then Vision reveals, or Ultron reveals, that the Soul Stone essentially controls the other ones, or you know what I mean. So like,
that also leads to
another, or the Mind Stone, maybe. I don't know.
Possibility in the MCU, which personally I wouldn't like, is because of this Ultron being able to see the entire multiverse and being able to get to the Watchers, wouldn't that make it possible that he would be the next big bad in the Marvel universe?
Yeah, that's one thing too. They got to be careful of it. It's the one idea of introducing a villain that's almost more intimidating and more far-reaching than Kang the Conqueror. You got to make I think that's my concern. If they don't bring Kang the Conqueror back for like multiple shows or multiple appearances, you risk diminishing his intimidation factor, and it's already going to be tough to make us see him as a bigger threat than Thanos. So you really should bring him back more often, give him a lot more small wins, so that we start to really fear him the way we were scared of Thanos. Everyone was nervous when Thanos was coming in Infinity War. Everyone was pretty much like shit's about to go down right now.
Right. And having a super version of Ultron would not be as interesting, and probably not as scary to the heroes because they defeated him once before.
Right.
And they would know that he's so much more powerful. But
I do have. I mean, I keep hearing. My first question when I watched the last episode was, how do the Infinity Stones work outside of their dimension? Which people online keep saying it was never said that they don't work outside the dimension. It just doesn't work in the quantum realm. Which I guess I understand, but then you risk making the quantum realm a little too powerful, and and everything in the quantum realm is just on its own thing, and it's just like, well, in the comic books that might work because you can always just come up with another planet or dimension or whatever, but in the movies you got to work within the the rules that you've established. So I don't know.
You're supposed to suspend your
I know. I
forget about things.
Again, it's nice to live in a time where I can nitpick about stupid, silly things like this. The other thing, the other thing that I'm a little concerned with is I felt like the Watcher should have been. He put up a decent fight, I guess, but he's not a fighter, so I might be just asking for too much. But I kind of felt like he should have put up a little bit more of a fight. I don't feel like Ultron Vision really had any. He didn't break a sweat fighting him.
Right, and the Watcher seemed a little scared.
Right, the whole time he seemed scared, and I guess the idea though was that he's not a fighter, he's not a soldier like that. He's literally supposed to just watch. It was nice to
He's
see
not
him
even
put his armor on and all that stuff, but I would have liked to see a little bit more of a fight out of him. Although it's not over, right? We're gonna have a whole other episode with him and Dark Strange going at it.
right. So there'll be a season 2, and we'll see how that goes. Hopefully, there's a couple other interesting things. I'd like to see a continuation of the zombie story. We saw zombie Thanos and a couple other people there, so that would be cool.
That's the one
And
question I have for the next episode. So, next episode is the final episode, and I think we pretty much know it's going to be the Watcher, Dark Strange, and whoever else they recruit against Ultron Vision. But I wonder how much of the previous episodes are going to tie into it. Like the zombie episode, I feel like is not going to tie into it at all.
that's not going to be canon. I think. I
That's
think
its own thing.
Yeah, I think a few of them won't really count. Maybe the Killmonger one may not be part of it, although they did leave that with not being finished.
Right.
And what was the one before that?
The one before that one was that was the T'Challa Star Lord one, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, right. So now you have a different Star Lord, and at
Right.
the end you saw Ego meet with Star Lord. Well, the correct Star
Yeah,
Lord.
with Peter Quill. So like that's
Yeah,
probably not going to tie into the final episode. That's got to be a
maybe
season
not
2 thing.
tie in. Right.
But now Peggy Carter, she could probably tie into this last episode. She could come and join this new What If Avengers. Black
Right.
Widow.
Actually, I guess her story could tie into the Captain America, well, not the Captain America, well, the one where the Avengers all died
Right.
before they had a chance to be Avengers.
Right.
So you
Right.
could see maybe that's because what is it?
Captain Marvel and Steve Rogers was being unfrozen at the end of that episode.
They're gonna be
So
unfrozen. Maybe they find it's not Steve Rogers, it's Peggy Carter or something.
could be. Yeah.
Could be Captain Carter. They didn't say Captain America.
I will
I
say
didn't
like
say Steve Rogers. Might have.
no, they didn't say it. They literally just showed the shield in the ice. That was
Right.
it.
So it could be Captain Carter that they
That's
unfreeze.
a good point. And then it'll be her and Captain
That could be
Marvel.
part of it.
I
We'll
mean,
see. It's only two either way.
they could do whatever they want, right? Because it's all different dimensions
Right.
anyway. So
Right.
even if the continuity doesn't match, they could just say, "Oh, it's a different universe or different
Yeah.
dimension or timeline or whatever." I will say that in the beginning of the first few
Bring in
episodes, what is that?
or the Watcher can bring in some of the characters who survived their individual What If episodes, bring them all into one universe and to fight that Ultron.
That's a good point.
Can be the whole series.
That's a good point. He could really do whatever he wants. I feel like the first few episodes of the show, I wasn't that into it. It just, it was fun, but it didn't seem anything that I needed to watch. And these last few episodes have just gone a long way in getting me excited for it. And now I'm like all in and
Yeah,
I'm ready for another season.
I honestly thought it was going to be like Star Wars Visions. I thought it was going to be just a bunch of side stories that just show you that there's a multiverse and here's some cool stories in individual universes that
Hmm.
don't matter to the main universe or to the entire series, as it were. Each episode would just be a small little story that starts and finishes at the end of its episode.
I thought the same thing,
But,
and I feel like they maybe took a little too long to show us that there was some sort of storyline that was going to play out in this. Like they should have
yeah,
had the
it
maybe
didn't happen in the last two. Yeah.
they should have almost had the Watcher kind of get surprised one episode earlier, just to kind of speed the pacing a little bit more. But otherwise,
Yeah.
listen, again, we're nitpicking, obviously,
Right.
which we're allowed. So don't be talking shit. All right, so now let's get into the Ultimate Marvel Movie Tournament. I think we covered all the other topics here. Let me just double check. Yes, we did. So let's talk about the matchups from last week. So first matchup we have was Fantastic Four versus Punisher Warzone. So
Yes.
this was the first time we saw Chris Evans in a superhero role, like a Marvel character superhero role,
Hmm.
versus Punisher Warzone with Ray Winston. And to give you the winners, let me just go through my notes here. So for this match, Fantastic Four won 3-0. But surprisingly, and I was very surprised about this, each platform had a pretty close matchup. It wasn't just a blowout like I thought it was going to be. Everyone, the votes were pretty close. But I voted for Fantastic Four in this one over Punisher Warzone. What did you vote
And
for?
I actually voted for Punisher Warzone.
Really? So now explain yourself. Explain that choice.
Um, I remember when Punisher Warzone came out, and when Fantastic Four came out, and the one thing I didn't like about Fantastic Four were one Thing's costume. I hated his hands, not
Where the,
being able to like
where the thumbs
grip
can't,
correctly.
the thumbs couldn't move. You know, once you see that, just for anyone who's watching, when you watch Fantastic Four, just remember the Thing can't close his thumb. Now that I told you that, whenever you see that movie, it's all you're gonna see. Everything he does, his pinkies are out.
It looks like a guy in a Spirit Halloween costume. I hated how he looked, and I thought that almost killed it entirely until Fantastic Four 2, but that killed it for me. Movie was okay, but this might be just how I remember both. I remember that just being so disappointing to me. Not just that, the entire movie in
Right,
general.
right. Well,
Disappointing to me that I just couldn't vote for that over Punisher Warzone. Now, Punisher
yeah,
Warzone, I know that's not a great movie either, but at least the character is played pretty correctly.
right, right.
They did Punisher right.
See. I voted for Fantastic Four, and the reason I did was mostly because of Johnny Storm, and because I'm a sucker for like that campy, not too serious kind of attitude. Not every movie. I love the MCU, and I barely say anything bad about the MCU, but not every movie needs to be this like super serious world-ending event. Like this is one of the reasons why I think Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp are two of the better MCU movies. Spider-Man
Yeah.
No Way Home or Homecoming and Far From Home, two of the better MCU movies. Not everything needs to be this like universe-ending moment. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
I enjoyed it. I hated the way Mr. Fantastic looked. I feel like the technology was not there to really pull off the stretching, and it's almost like they should have just waited a little bit. Maybe they didn't need to come out with Fantastic Four at that time. I guess they were just trying to bank on whatever property they could, but I didn't like the way he looked, his powers looked, and I hated Doctor Doom. Hated Doctor Doom.
Oh,
I mean, you have one of the best villains overall in the comic books, arguably one of the best villains overall in the comic books. And I don't necessarily mean power-wise, just like him and Magneto are kind of like on the same level with like just popularity and viciousness and dedication to villainy and all that stuff. And they turned him into a pretty boy, like he was just jealous. He's supposed to be a genius mind, and he just wanted to bang Sue Storm. Like, it was such a watering down of a character that really should have been menacing and like scary and intimidating. It just ruined it for me. For Punisher Warzone, I enjoyed the violence of the movie. I personally didn't think Ray Winston really played the character well. But everyone's got their own interpretation, right, of what they want the character to be. I thought the Jigsaw, while he looked good, was played a little too Tommy Lee Jones and Two-Face-ish. So like,
right.
I think that really ruined it for me because the Punisher is one of my favorite characters in the comic books. Some of his stories just really like I'm just a fan of his. So that's why I chose Fantastic Four. But in the end, Fantastic Four won anyway, 3-0. Yeah. The fans have spoken. Fantastic Four moves on. So after Fantastic Four, I'm going to skip to the third battle because the second one is a little tougher. The third battle was Doctor Strange versus X-Men Apocalypse.
Right.
This was a landslide victory for Doctor Strange, which I think everyone guessed. Honestly,
Doctor Strange is a great movie.
Fantastic movie. And X-Men Apocalypse is a
garbage horrible movie.
It's just garbage. I don't know. So in the first round of this tournament, as I was randomizing all the matchups and going through it, I thought to myself, there's a lot of layups in the first round, and this was one of them. I mean, if Apocalypse got any votes, I would be surprised, and it did get a couple votes on TikTok, but I feel like those are just people who were like, I'm not going to vote for the popular one, and they voted for X-Men Apocalypse.
maybe there were two scenes in X-Men Apocalypse that I liked. One was a Quicksilver scene. That was
Mm,
actually a good scene. I'll watch that scene alone, and just for fun, it was a good
I
scene.
agree. I agree with that.
And maybe the Wolverine cameo, Weapon X cameo, that was interesting. It's cool to see it just displayed in the movies. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think
But
so.
that's
Speaking on
the way they made
the
Apocalypse look.
oh, he was
Oh,
garbage. Ivan Ooze.
yeah, yeah,
He was Ivan Ooze.
exactly. I saw an interview with the costume designer that they had originally hired to make the Apocalypse,
Mm-hmm.
and he showed it was on a TV show actually. He showed what the he wanted to do for the Apocalypse character, at least just the bust,
Uh huh.
and it looked exactly like the comics. And he said it was totally doable in a movie, and Marvel turned it down, got the other guy, and that's what they turned out with. I think if they got that first, if they had made the costume for Apocalypse just look so much more like the comics, I think
That would have
it
gone a
could
long
have been.
way. It would have gone
Yeah,
a
that
long
that
way
really
in doing it, but like they missed the point of the character. I mean, Apocalypse in the comics and in the cartoons and wherever else we see him, he's not a in your face. He can fight you. He can go toe to toe with you and beat the shit out of you in most cases, but that's not
yeah.
his style. He was more of the behind the scenes. Like he will manipulate you
Right.
quietly. Like they made him this. I guess they tried to go for this like this quiet menace, which is
Right.
not that's not Apocalypse. Like if he decides in the comic books, if he decides I'm gonna show my face and do battle, he grows and he's like I'm gonna intimidate you with just like fear. You know what I mean? And they missed the point of the character. They chose Oscar Isaac is a great actor, but sometimes you don't want that A-list like uh Shakespearean actor in a movie like this. Sometimes you want the guy who's going to be campy, who's going to be kind of loud and move around a lot.
Right.
I just don't think he wasn't intimidating. They made him create the four horsemen of the apocalypse, but he didn't use them. The whole point of creating those henchmen is to send them out and use them before he has to
Yeah.
step up. They
They're like
they really messed
Thanos'
up a lot.
four henchmen, essentially, but
Right.
in that universe.
Right. I mean, the one thing I'll say is that they made the look of a lot of the other characters better. Like Storm looked pretty good. Excuse me, Psylocke looked pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Nightcrawler looked cool. Like, then on top of that, the way they had a hint at the end. What'd you say?
But because the costume design was pretty good for some characters,
O-
just not.
Overall, it was fine. You know what I mean? But the way they made they had a hint at the end that Dark Phoenix was coming, or that the Phoenix was coming. Like
Yeah.
I rolled my eyes so hard at the end. Like
Like, well, it didn't work last time. Why do you think it's going to work again this time?
you could tell right the moment they did that, you knew that if they were going to tackle the Dark Phoenix storyline, they were going to do it wrong. You knew it
Yeah.
immediately. They again missed the point of that storyline, and then it annoys me. And I know we're not talking about X-Men Dark Phoenix, but it annoys me that the very next movie they forget that they showed Jean release this Phoenix energy, and suddenly she gets it from space. I'm like, what the,
Yeah.
these are your movies. Like you planned this. Like you know what I mean. Like
Right.
so that
Terrible.
frustrates me. There's just a lot wrong with that movie. So and Doctor Strange, I agree with you. It's an excellent movie. It's one of the better origin stories of the MCU. Benedict,
Yeah.
it's kind of cast very well. It's acted very well. Special effects are awesome. Dormammu was cool. Like, Dormammu was a better Apocalypse than Apocalypse. So,
Oh yeah.
but all right. So that's the easy one. Now we're gonna go to the more difficult choice here. This was matchup number 2: Captain America: The Winter Soldier versus Captain America: Civil War. This is one of the harder battles in round 1 of this tournament that we're doing. Who did you vote for?
I went for Civil War.
All right, and I went for Captain America: Winter Soldier. So explain your choice.
Uh, I really like both movies. I would almost call them equal.
Okay,
Civil War, I just have a lot more scenes, individual scenes in that movie that I liked and
okay,
I remember more than Winter Soldier. And
okay.
I like Bucky's story in Winter Soldier, and I do like what they did there, and I love a lot of the scenes in that movie too.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
think Civil War just was a bigger crux type of movie for the MCU also.
I
So I
don't
feel like
disagree with that.
that's
Yeah,
why it should win. It had a lot of more importance in the
right.
overall MCU versus Winter Soldier.
I will say that. So I voted for Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier
Mhm.
is one of my favorite movies of the MCU in general. Um, I do think So I'll give Civil War a lot of credit in the sense that they took the Civil War storyline from the comics, adapted it, not only adapted it to the movies, but made it fit within the framework of the MCU so perfectly that it kind of you never once felt like people were making decisions that didn't make sense. Everyone was reacting or doing what you kind of expected them to do just based off of what we saw in the MCU. To
Right.
me, it's very close. I rewatched them both because I wanted to, be honest about my opinion. But for me, Civil War doesn't fully land as much as I wanted it to for being so epic. And the perfect example is the airport fight scene. It's a great fight scene overall. It's an awesome scene. All our best heroes are going at it and whatever. But
It introduced
it introduced Spider-Man. Black Panther looked badass in it. I don't like two major things I didn't like about that fight scene. One is the music. It just wasn't epic enough. We had this showdown between friends and heroes that like it should have felt the music should have made me feel like, damn, I can't believe this is happening. And it didn't
right.
really feel like that. I felt like I felt like it wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't loud enough, wasn't like, who knows, it wasn't epic enough. That's just really the best way I can describe it. To me, it could have been more better. And the second thing I didn't like, and I don't know if a lot of people agree with this, but I don't like that nobody died. Like the stakes weren't there. I don't like that. So at the very end, Vision, he goes to shoot the plane. He ends up hitting War Machine or Rhodey. Rhodey hits the ground. To me, it made no sense that Iron Man and Falcon couldn't catch up to him. It didn't seem like they were so far away with the speed that we've seen them have already in the MCU. They couldn't catch up to him. So that I didn't like. And I didn't like that by the end of the movie, Rhodey was able to walk again. They kind of
Yeah.
made it seem like, oh man, like, if they left him as in a wheelchair, at least for the end of that movie, and then revealed in the next movie that Tony helped him, then maybe it would have felt a lot more like there was some real consequences to what happened. But the fact that they showed you at the very end that he was walking with the mechanical legs, or whatever, I was like, all right,
Like
so it's
they didn't want to say, "Oh, this guy could have died," or "This guy is really injured." They're like, "Ah, he's okay."
right. And I get it, kids watch these movies and you don't want them to see their favorite heroes hurt or whatever, but to me, I felt like everything felt like it had some stakes until that scene, and then everyone's pulling their punches, and just nothing was happening, and I'm just like kind of like, ugh, like you didn't really land. That's really what gave it the edge, because otherwise, in Winter Soldier, even when you watch it now, knowing what happens, the fight scenes are intense. You really don't know who's going to come out on top. You really feel like Bucky could do some damage to some of the people in the movie. Like, it's just a great movie altogether. I feel like my only complaint about Winter Soldier is probably that. Do I have any complaints about Winter Soldier? I don't know. I don't think so. I really don't think so. I feel like it's really one of the more perfect MCU movies.
And I don't have any complaints for Winter Soldier either. I just like I don't have any complaints for either Winter Soldier or Civil War.
Right.
So Civil War is just the movie I would watch more than once
Yeah.
versus Winter Soldier. Not that I don't watch, I've watched them all more than once, but
Right,
I
right,
think
right.
if push came to shove, if I had to throw one away and just stick with one, I would go with Civil War. It's just
I
there's
think
more cool.
if I'm really thinking about it, my only complaint about Captain America Winter Soldier is
Right.
that we all knew that the Winter Soldier was Bucky Barnes. You weren't fooling anybody
Right.
with that reveal. That's really it. Otherwise, I don't have any complaints about that movie. I think it's amazing.
Well, I guess if you were not a comic reader and didn't have any idea who Bucky Barnes was, maybe you may not have
Yeah.
known, or at least not until maybe halfway through the movie, or if you saw some trailers, you probably wouldn't have known. Maybe there's a
Maybe.
possibility that someone didn't know
It's
who's not
possible.
comics.
It's yeah. I mean, it's hard to think of to see it from a lens where I don't really just know what's going to happen anyway.
Because we know the Civil War story. I mean, we kind of knew what was going to happen in that, or and Winter Soldier and Thor: Dark. I mean, you know what's going to happen in almost all these movies
Right.
for the most part.
Right.
Give or
Right.
take some big reveals and secrets that they hold on to. We know what's going to happen in all these movies.
Yeah, that's true.
We know at the end of Spider-Man: No Way Home, Spider-Man's not going to die.
Right. That's well. That's. I mean, that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
So there's never really that much of a threat.
Fun fact,
And
or
how do the heroes overcome the said threat?
here's an out there theory time. What if Tom Holland's Peter Parker dies in the current MCU, but like Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield become the new Spider-Man? Or we get Miles Morales and he becomes Spider-Man going forward in the main timeline, and Tom Holland gets whisked off to, whatever timeline he's going to go to with Venom.
Yeah, pretty cool.
That would be
I don't
cool.
know how that's gonna work, but it's possible.
I can already tell you that won't happen only because we know Vulture is in Morbius, and
Yeah.
Vulture it's been confirmed that that's the Vulture from Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Right.
So
Right.
you know Tom Holland's gonna stick around at least to face him down again.
Right.
But all right, so those were the matches from this week. Let's go on to the new matches that are coming up.
Yeah.
So let me read them to you because I don't have a I don't have a handy dandy graphic for these. So match number 1 for the week coming up is shoot. Match number 1 is all right. So this is a pretty easy one, I would say, just kind of a landslide one. Marvel's The Avengers, so the very first Avengers movie versus Ang Lee's Hulk. What do you think? What's your vote?
Oh yeah. Obviously, it's gonna be a landslide for the Avengers.
Yeah, it's not even close. I mean, Ang Lee's Hulk has very little to like besides some of the action, I guess, in the latter half of the movie. But
I'll give you this. Ang Lee's Hulk is one of those movies that I like for how bad it is,
yeah, yeah,
and I'll watch it just because if I see it on TV or something. I don't do that on Blu-ray, but I'll watch it just because I find it kind of funny.
yeah. I feel like
The
whenever it's on
CGI
TV, oh, it's horrible. It's horrible.
did not age well
No,
at
no, it
all.
didn't. I feel like I watch it when I kind of happen to stumble across it, mainly because it's the first Hulk movie we have. And I'm not taking away from Lou Ferrigno, but those were like made for TV movies. This is the first big screen Hulk, so to me, it's
Sure.
like I kind of have to watch it, but it really leaves a lot to be desired. And I remember
Yeah.
thinking at the time that Hulk actually did look pretty decent.
Yeah, yeah, I think we did.
Right when it first
Yeah,
came out, it was like, all right, cool. Like he looks pretty good. He's a little too green, but
yeah.
not a big
It
deal.
was kind of fluorescent green.
Right, but now you watch it, it does not hold up well at all.
No, not at all.
The best scene is it says a lot when the best scene of a Hulk movie is when he accidentally hits himself in the nuts with a tank. So the
I do have
set
to get that on Blu-ray. I wonder if it's in 4K. I do have
is worth having.
like my collection. I gotta add
Yeah,
it.
it's worth owning at least. Matchup number 2 for this week is Fan Four Stick versus Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Is that
You
another
know which one?
is that
And
another
also,
landslide victory? Yeah,
Landslide or
that's not even a
one of my
contest
favorite,
really.
my absolute favorite MCU movies, Thor Ragnarok.
That's definitely up there for me too. Top 3 for sure. Thor Ragnarok is fantastic. Again, now we go from one Hulk to the next. In both Ang Lee's Hulk and Thor Ragnarok, we see Hulk's ass. But the difference is in Ang Lee's Hulk, when we saw his ass, we were like, "Oh, come on, is that necessary?" But in Thor Ragnarok, we were like, that's pretty nice ass." And then the third matchup for this week. So you're voting for Thor Ragnarok before I move on?
Yeah.
That's okay. That's mine too. I feel like both of those matchups are going to be easy wins. The third matchup is, and also I think an easy win, is Ghost Rider, the Nick Cage first Ghost Rider versus Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Oh gosh. Yeah. So
I feel
Spider-Man:
like
Homecoming by a landslide again.
I feel like all 3 matchups this week are just no brainers. We already know what's going to happen. I might as well just kind of skip them and move them on to the next round.
And Ghost Rider is another one that I like for how bad it is.
Right. Well, you know what it
I'll
is?
watch it just because it's so terrible, and Nick Cage is great.
Right. I was talking to a friend at work about this, and you gotta love Nick Cage because no matter how bad the movie is that he chose to do, he gives 110%. I mean, he puts as much effort into Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance, and the first one that he puts into City of Angels when he was actually getting awards for his acting. Like, he really threw all of himself into this role, and it's got moments. Ghost Rider looked good. He looked cool. The flaming skull and that looked decent.
Yeah, too bad. And they're gonna reboot that finally.
At some point. Although they did already. I mean, if anyone who watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the Ghost Rider in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was awesome. Was
Yeah,
fantastic.
it was there. I think they're gonna make a movie, and it's gonna be rebooted again, so to speak. I don't think that Ghost Rider or anything from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is canon anymore.
I think it's still canon, but it's almost one of those things where it's like they just won't talk about it.
Right.
But yeah, so those are the 3 matchups coming up this week. And before we end the show, have you heard the rumors about Daredevil and Punisher?
Yes.
Yes. So there's a lot of strong rumors that Charlie Cox is going to be in Spider-Man: No Way Home, and then again show up in the She-Hulk show. There's also
Okay.
a ton of rumors that Kingpin is going to be a part of the She-Hulk show, and Vincent D'Onofrio is going to return as Kingpin. Um,
I believe today Marvel may have confirmed Charlie Cox coming back, but not confirm where and when. Just that they are in talks to like
really,
bring back the character as Daredevil, but not to necessarily be in
this,
any of the current movies.
now did
So
they
if they're in
confirm?
talks, I think that comes later, like in 2 years, 3 years.
I mean, knowing Marvel, they'll take their time for sure. But now, do they continue the character and storylines from the shows, the Netflix shows, or do you think they're going to redo them and just kind of reintroduce the character and say he's a new variant of the same
If
person?
they bring back Charlie Cox, they could it could still be the same character, but you're looking at it maybe it's 5 years, 10 years down the road,
Right.
so
I
he could
think
still be the same character, but now it's just so far along that maybe he's not really there to maybe hung up
I don't
the
know. I don't know how you feel, but Daredevil, the show, is in my opinion the best Marvel show that's come out. I mean, even compared to what we have now, Loki was great, and Falcon and
Mm,
Soldier was good, but Daredevil was phenomenal, phenomenal
I think
Marvel show.
I would I would put that up there in the top three at least. I think the Disney shows feel like they're more real Marvel movies, kind
Hmm.
of split up into TV shows. So
Yeah,
I feel
that's
like
true.
they're unfair competition. I think Loki and WandaVision are better than Daredevil, but I think Daredevil came at a time when Marvel didn't know how to really make their movies into a TV show and make a TV show so,
Yeah,
wild and with such a high budget.
right. That's true. That's not a bad that's not a bad opinion to have. But
Yeah,
I was such a
great.
fan of Daredevil season 3, and I was so upset when it was getting canceled because I wanted
Yeah,
to see Bullseye fully realized on screen. I wanted to see
I was
Kingpin come back
canceled. I
again.
mean, I was upset about that cancellation. Punisher being canceled. I mean, I really liked the Punisher from the Netflix series.
Absolutely,
They
all of
could
them
bring it
though.
back. What they do.
Luke Cage season 2 ended in such a cool spot that I was looking forward to a season 3. I feel like
Yeah.
Iron Fist season 1 was hot trash. Defenders did a lot to make Iron Fist a more likable character, and then Iron Fist season 2 was just leaps and bounds better than the first season, and I was
Season
excited
two
for season 3.
was an excellent send off for the
100%.
character.
I do think that out of all those shows, the only one they don't really need to bring back is Jessica Jones, and not because I didn't like the character, but it ended in a pretty good spot for the character to just kind of bow out and be done.
Yeah, her maybe Luke Cage too. His character was pretty much done afterwards.
I feel like his
Although
the
I
thing
could see
is,
him coming back off.
Luke Cage ended where he was in charge of the crime in his little
Correct.
part of town. So it kind of ended in a spot where you could just leave it alone. But I'm interested to know what happens, and I
Yeah,
would love for him to bring him back, even if they do the
yeah,
Heroes for Hire and bring him and Iron Fist back for their own show where they're teaming up together would be awesome.
that'd be cool. With
That
a higher budget, it'd be
that would be
really cool.
amazing. That's for Disney Plus. Hell yes. Looks like we hit a little over an hour, so I could sit here and talk for an entire day about all this kind of stuff, but I don't want to bore everyone to death. So thank you for spending the hour with me, man, and I hope to have
Anytime.
you back soon. I want to do another show next weekend, talking about the matchups and any of the new announcements, and then the final episode of What If, and then maybe you can catch up on Star Wars Visions by then.
Yeah, I'll probably have it all finished by the end of this
So
week.
thank you. And again, for anyone who hasn't already, if you like this kind of stuff, like and subscribe. Join us on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok. That's where you get most of the news. Twitch is where we do our live streams. You'll see a lot of the recaps on YouTube. Generational Gaming and Entertainment Network, GGEN or GGEN. You can find us on all the social medias on that. Shaun, thanks again, man. And we will see you guys next week.
Anytime.